Greetings, this is your girl Shy Queens coming to you with another message. Welcome to the inner court. This message is coming as a message of the one remembering their sovereignty. All right, so there comes a moment when your spirit stops asking for permission. Not because you have become rebellious, but because you have become aligned. What is happening to you now is not confusion. It is discernment coming online. You're beginning to feel in your body and in your breath that your alignment does not come from outside voices. It doesn't come from inherited systems or borrowed beliefs. Comes from the divine intelligence that placed you here with a specific life path, a specific frequency, and a specific authority. You were never meant to be governed by fear of contamination, punishment, or exclusion. Nothing outside of you has the power to defile your essence. Nothing outside of you has the power to defile your essence. What shapes your life is what you enthrone within. I'm going to stop right there. I'm talking to someone that is coming out of conditioning. Just thinking about it, coming out of conditioning. I remember when I felt led to leave the church. I began to look for God. I began to search for God. Through devotion, through reading, through all sorts of studying. And I remember coming to a place where internally I was overjoyed because I was finding God within myself. And I remember struggling because who I was becoming was no longer matching with who the world knew me to be. It was no longer matching with who I was raised to be. And I remember seeking out communities that understood where I was. And I remember being terrified. I remember seeking approval from my friends, my closest friends, and my family members, and everything that I became convicted with inside. I used to go and debate or, justify why my life was being led in the direction that it was, because I was scared for the finger pointing, the disapproval, the shunning, the demonizing I would get from my loved ones and my family. And what I remember is that I got to a point where I was convicted with my inner knowing. But my issue was I still had everybody else's opinion on the throne of my life. And I remember that I had to come to a place of dethroning the things, the belief systems, the people that I once held so dearly. And it's not that I didn't hold them dearly anymore. I dethroned the hierarchy that I had placed them on, that gave them authority to defile me. And it was crazy because some people don't even know they hold that authority in one's life. And so I'm speaking to someone that is at a point of dethroning. On the inside, you're dethroning things that just no longer align with you. For a long time, many of us were taught to outsource our sovereignty, to place systems on a throne, to obey traditions that never consulted our inner knowing, to silence intuition in favor of approval, to confuse holiness with compliance. But I'm speaking to someone that soul is remembering another order. I'm speaking to someone that soul is remembering an ancient order. Inside you lives a sovereign priest, the keeper of the gate, the one who decided what is allowed to access your mind, your body, and your field. This aspect of you is waking up every time you say no without guilt. Every time you refuse to explain yourself. Every time you feel peace after choosing truth. This is not coldness. This is integrity. Inside you also lives a sovereign priestess, the keeper of the fire, the one who tends to your life force, your intuition, your creativity, and your emotional body. She awakens every time you listen to your body instead of overriding it. Every time you stop pouring into spaces that drain you. Every time you honor your cycles, your peace, and your inner voice. This is not selfishness. This is devotion. Together, these two forms your inner court. The priest sets the law of alignment, and the priestess keeps the temple alive. Oh, give thanks. When the gate is guarded, chaos cannot enter. When the fire is tended, bitterness cannot accumulate. This is why whoever I'm speaking to, you're being called now to take things off the throne that no longer serve you. You're being called to be courageous in your inner knowing. You're being called to explain less to people that are committed to misunderstanding you, to people that are committed to allowing you to be in turmoil for their peace of mind or control or projections. This does not mean that you love anyone any less. I just want to make that clear. This doesn't mean that you don't respect your loved ones. This doesn't mean that. This means that you are choosing sovereignty. Belief systems that taught you to distrust yourself. Those are what you're taking off the throne. People that taught you to distrust yourself. Traditions that demanded obedience but never offered embodiment. Ways of life that train you to abandon your body, your intuition, your joy. They may have shaped you, but they do not get to rule you. The divine does not govern you through fear. The divine governs through alignment. I'm speaking to someone that is choosing their inner alignment. that is choosing to stand up on the inside, to align on the inside, to get on the frequency of who you really are, not who you were designed to be, not who you were groomed to be, but who the divine called you to be. I'm speaking to someone that's beginning to see themselves clearly and offering yourself radical love, courage, nurture, and grace, because you know, your inner knowing, when you're with yourself, by yourself, when all the noise have gone away and you're with yourself, your inner knowing. If something constantly pulls you away from your truth, your body, your peace, it is not sacred to your path, contrary to popular beliefs. If something requires you to silence your inner knowing to belong, it is not worthy of your devotion. You're not going crazy, chosen. You're not losing faith. You are refining your faith. You're refining your inner knowing. You're refining your embodiment. You are becoming. You're not walking away from the divine. You're walking away. You're walking deeper into the divine within yourself. And this is an initiation. You're being called to stop asking what is allowed and start stewarding what is aligned. You're being called to stop fearing what enters your life. You're being called to start tending to what exits your mouth, your choices, and your energy. If you have ears to hear, this message is for you. Your sovereignty is not something you claim. It is something you remember. And once remembered, it is your responsibility to govern it. I just want to encourage somebody today that needed a reminder that you're not going crazy, that you're being stretched, that you're being aligned, that you're being shedded of things that may have been the only security you knew in life that created parts of your identity, but you're being called to shed your labels. You're being called to shed the identity of who you thought you were, so that you can come into alignment with who you're called to be, how you're called to move, who you're called to align with, the type of energies that you're called to be in proximity with. You're being called to be mindful of what enters your sacred space. I guess I'm to the point, talking to someone that's getting to the point where you are using your discernment to see things through your spiritual eye, right? You're being called to use your spiritual eye and your discernment to see what's in alignment with your soul's journey, with your life path, with your inner knowing. You're being called to trust your inner knowing. You're being called to go into devotion, into devotion, in alignment. You're being called to take care of yourself, to be kind to yourself at this time, to call back your inner peace. You're being called to take chaos off the throne of your life, to take belief systems that no longer belong to you. You're being called to a higher frequency. You are undefiled by anything or anyone outside of yourself. Sovereign. You're being called to be the sovereign priest. You're being called to be the sovereign priestess. You're being called to let your sovereign, divine, masculine, and feminine in you stand up. You're being called not to quiet yourself, to give others peace outside of yourself. You're being called to stop explaining to people that are committed to misunderstanding, to people that are not willing to stand up on the inside of themselves. You're being called to stop seeking advice from people that are committed to living for this world. All right. If you're still here at this point of the message, I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. I ask that you drop a comment. Sovereignty. Put sovereignty in the comment. I'm reminding you, this is not about me telling you how to believe. I'm speaking to someone that is seeking devotion, seeking your life path from your divine creator. All right. Put sovereignty in the chat. I will talk to you next time, and keep your mind clear. Keep your mind peaceful. Keep your mind still. And when they try to point the finger and tell you who you are not or what you're not doing, remember you are aligning with your sovereignty. Give thanks, and so it is, and so shall it be.